Welcome back to the Star Wars Newsnet Timeline Show, episode 25, still near 232 BBY, Young Jedi Adventures, episodes 19 and 20. Breaking those down real quick, some really good episodes actually for the Young Jedi Adventures show. As always, I am joined by Master on the Force, Luke Sheehan. How are you today, my good sir?
Doing pretty well. It's a Friday that we're recording this. I did not have to work, so it was a great Friday for me.
I mean, that is a beautiful thing. I cannot say the same on this Friday. I worked today, and though today was actually a really good day at school, so I'm perfectly fine working. It was pretty fine, but pretty fun. Ready for the weekend. Ready to watch some football. I'm gonna just absolutely go hard on homework for grad school and then grading tomorrow. So the goal is to have an absolutely zero brain cell Sunday. Like that's the goal. I don't want to
I
like
love
use my
those.
brain for like anything. That's pretty much like outside of sports betting. I don't want to use my brain for anything on Sunday. Like I just want to relax and watch football and have a few adult beverages. That's kind of what I want to do for my Sunday.
That'll be
Are
good.
you ready to get into some timeline show?
We've got two really good ones here for you. So yes, I'm super ready.
As always, every Saturday, Luke and I bring you the next canon piece of Star Wars material. Right now, we're doing all of season 1 of Young Jedi Adventures. We only have a few episodes left, so a few episodes here of Young Jedi Adventures before we do Light of the Jedi and get back into some novels and comics, which I am ready for a little switch up. And you haven't read the most recent High Republic novel yet, correct? I'm losing it right now. Beware the
Beware
Nameless.
the Nameless. I have not got my hands on that yet.
Well, we have a Tanu name drop in Beware the Nameless, and it's literally like there's just a brief throwaway line about Nameless that are supposed to be shipped to Tanu. And it's like,
Oh no.
like, what? I was like, we just gotta throw that in there. Oh my goodness. So
Also, this is a little off topic, but the Living Force, you haven't really finished that, have you?
I haven't
There's a
started
Tanu
the word
name
that
drop
I
in that
think you're
book as
looking
well.
for. Okay. Okay.
So
I love that. I love that. So here we go.
wow.
Yep.
That's
Here we go.
big.
Episode. Yes, it's. I was like a little stressed out after I read that. Episode 19 is titled. Part 1 is titled Life Day. Our trio is on Kashyyyk for Life Day, and Liz accidentally loses one of the precious life orbs for their friend Jogashaka and breaks it trying to get it back. But they learn the true meaning of Life Day, which is all about the people and the friendships and the family that we've made along the way that make it worth celebrating. Luke, just a quick recap here. Did you enjoy the Life Day portion of episode 19?
Yeah, this was a good one. It was kind of hard to watch because this past live show you shared that you had some collectibles, maybe some kids were playing with them a little rougher than you wanted them to. It kind of just brought that back a little, like, hey, here's this very valuable thing. Don't screw with it, or don't be very careful with this. And nope, this whole episode is just like, oh, I dropped the most precious thing in the world. I dropped it. Sorry, my bad.
Like, oh my goodness, Liz. Like, come on. Of all the three younglings to drop it, I would have least expected Liz
I
to
know.
do this. This feels like classic Nubs or Kai that would make this happen. These darn kids. But we have to talk about this, so let's get into the notes, shall we? So,
Ooh,
Luke,
yes.
did you know here that we have Liz speaking Shriwook, which is quite exciting? And so I want to ask you, would you learn Shriwook if you were a Padawan, like you're a youngling? Is that a language you would prioritize?
I think so. I would absolutely try it. It seems completely impossible to learn, but clearly Nib Asek has learned it. Clearly Liz is learning it. Even Han can get his way through a conversation in Shriwook. So sure. It seems really interesting. I don't know how many Wookiees I would meet in Star Wars.
I love how
but
you said even Han could learn Truework, like Han, even Han could learn some
even
Truework.
Han.
When I saw Liz learning speaking Truework, though, I was reminded of Yord in the Acolyte going, while many of the other Padawans and younglings at the temple were busy learning Shriwook, I chose to learn a more nuanced, language when he's speaking Basil's language. So I just reminded,
Canon.
like, yes, very good. Yes, the lore master himself. What did you think of Joga Shaka, our new favorite Wookiee, young Wookiee, Joga Shaka?
Joe seemed cool. Like really Joe could just fit into the rest of the crew. Seemed like honestly was like meshed pretty well. I liked
Mhm.
Joe. And yeah, I really enjoyed getting back to Life Day, and like
Mm. Life
that's
Day.
kind of what the center of the holiday special was.
Right.
And there were like these red robed Wookiees back in like, 1970s and 80s that we were like introducing to canon. And now here they are in 2023 and 24, like
Trying to
resurfacing in canon. So
Star
it's just
Wars trying to
insane.
salvage Life Day as much as they can.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Chief? We got Chief Wittigick here. Awesome Chief. And so we have Chief Wittigick. This I thought was a great line. Liz has the Life Day orb in her hand. It's Jogashaka's Life Day orb. Precious for the heirloom that is going to be lifted up and lit up for Life Day to celebrate Life Day. It's like the number one Wookiee tradition, right? And Liz drops it, it goes away, and then here comes Master Zia going, "Oh, Joe, I'm sorry. I saw what happened to the Life Day orb. That's a real bummer." And then I wanted to add on at the end, laughs evilly, and I chose not to stop it with the Force as a Jedi Master that I am.
Yeah. It kind of tracks though. Like this whole time for months we've been doing this show and we've been saying like, why do these parent figures or like these adults just like let these kids, I feel like they let them go too far. I think I as a someone with the force as an adult, I would have been like, oh, see, it fell off the roof, but I reached out 20 meters and I did catch it. But be very careful. Like it could have brought like I would have intervened, I think.
you know, it's a kid show. We got to roll with it, of course. But oh my goodness, when they're trying to find the Life Day orb, and there's that one Wookiee who's got like these baskets of whatever that are these like it was almost like Monsters Inc. when they're on the door machines flying door to
Yeah.
door, and Liz is inside the basket, and Kai and them are like pointing at her, saying, "Hey, could you stop at the machine so our friend doesn't like burn in the incinerator or something or fall from way high?" Like, and the Wookiee's like, "I can't stop it. I'm not stopping it. I'm sorry. Like, it's out of my control." I'm like, "Press the button, dude. Stop
Press
the
it.
ride."
I seemed like a very simple machine to start. I can't imagine it'd be that hard to stop. So, Chief Wittigick, we need some disciplinary action. Like, get this person into solitary confinement or something. Who knows?
So we're putting what? How do you put a Wookiee in solitary confinement, though?
Shame them.
You shame them. You
I
shame
don't
them
know.
into solitary confinement. I was like, what the heck, bro? And Liz, just taking the responsibility of finding the orb all on her own and puts herself in danger and she falls. But let me tell you, when she falls and the Force theme swells as the younglings save her from falling and hurting herself. It's just this beautiful moment. Like I couldn't help even watching the toddler show, the youngling show here. I couldn't help but be like, yes, like the Force theme swelling, they're saving their friend from disaster.
It's it man, it just hits even harder when you know that there's impending doom and then you get hit with the force theme and then you
Mhm,
you get the cue before you even see the saving action happen like,
mhm.
oh, I know everything's going to be okay. The force theme is
Yeah,
playing. And I think
and
that
I
just
love the Force
so
theme.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anytime it plays, I'm just instantly hyped. It doesn't
It
matter
doesn't
what.
matter if it's a children's show. It really doesn't because yes, I agree with you. I watched that and was like, man, I'm really feeling something here. Like this is
Feel it.
meant for toddlers and I'm feeling something here.
So the chief then, after they do save the orb, it's broken. It's not going to really light up. It's not going to be the same. But the chief reminds them that hey, these orbs aren't the purpose of Life Day. It's about friendship and family and roasted tip yip.
Roasted tip yip. Some would say maybe that's the most no, I'm kidding. It is family, and that is absolutely core to Star Wars, found family even. But
Mhm.
here it is actual blood familial, all these Wookiees, family. And I agree, like family is huge for me. I love my family. I'm glad that we get a little bit of that taste in Star Wars. Like this is super important to them, and they don't need to hang. I think it translates to kind of Christmas for me. Like, oh no, you broke an ornament. That's fine. We're still all gathered together as a family around the Christmas tree. We're gonna be okay.
Mhm. But
It's
don't you
okay.
dare, don't you even think about breaking like some of my Star Wars ornaments. Like if you break my Ray
Mm,
ornament or one of my Luke Skywalker ornaments, like then we have a problem. Like, but then other than that, Christmas is okay. I agree. Yes. A couple, two more things, last thing. Sorry, my mind goes here a lot when I watch moments like this in Star Wars. It can be in something like Young Jedi Adventures, a book from the High Republic, something from the prequel era. And I want to ask you this question: like, how much of Life Day and how many orbs do you think were lost during the Imperial reign? And just knowing what the Empire did to Kashyyyk to just completely try to neutralize that planet. And we see them in Bad Batch, like just burning parts of the forest to the ground. I'm sure the Empire did catastrophic things, to the ecosystem and to the obviously to the Wookiee people. And it just made me go back and think, like, man, I wonder how many families, like generations worth of Life Day orbs were lost. And I wonder what that celebration looks like, in the new era of Star Wars, beyond the Empire, beyond the First Order.
ooh, man, that would be awesome to kind of wrap back to that in a future story to like the reintroduction of Life Day.
Mhm.
It's so sad to think about, to see how beautiful this ceremony is and how much love is poured out and received in this ceremony. And to think about how 200 years in the future, it's potential that like 90% or like most of these Life Day orbs are shattered, never to be recovered again. And it makes me think also about Mandalore and how it just got completely desecrated by the Empire as well.
Mhm.
So much culture that maybe wasn't built on love, but it was at least art and culture that was lost.
Mhm.
So it's so sad to think about. I mean,
Mhm.
this has real world parallels too. There are wars going on right now where historical sites that have been around for thousands of years are being destroyed today.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. No, that's a
yeah,
good point. So that leads us into part 2 of episode 19, called "The Empire Strikes Back." I mean, sorry, Raxlo Strikes Back. And here we have our good friends back with Gumar and the Wellegrins, and they are trying to prevent Raxlo from desecrating a Wellegrin. I almost said burial ground. Wellegrin hatching site,
the other
and
end of the
he is
spectrum.
trying to, he's got his giant harvester out. He's melting the snow. These Wellegrins need the snow, need the cold in order to hatch, and he's trying to get these Tinga rocks and sell them for a major profit. But ultimately, they talk to Raxlo after they disarm some droids, and they convince him, like, hey, there's another way to go about this. And Raxlo ends up finding different ways to make a profit, but also he just gets taken under with the cuteness of the Wellegrins. And the lesson here is that, you know what? There's always another way. Not a bigger there's always a bigger fish, and there's always another way.
I love that. Bringing back Qui-Gon every chance we can on this podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
um,
Like, why not? Like, of course.
why not? So this episode was really big for Raxlow. I think he actually undergoes some character development here. By the end of the episode, this half of the episode, I think he really comes away with the like understanding that like I can't just go and destroy anything I want just for the name of profit. Like
Hmm.
he really kind of understands like, I need to be more careful with what I do. I still want to be rich. I'm still going to pursue
Right.
that, but like I'm going to be more humanitarian about it.
Seems like
So
there was a change in
there was a
Rexlo's behavior
change.
that's going to move forward, because in the last episodes, it's always like, all right, I'll stop. This time he's like, I'll stop. But then at the end, he creates like a shovel instead of like a laser to burn the snow or melt the snow. He creates like a
Right.
shovel to just move the snow. And we're going to create other ways to go about it. So, yeah, I think this was like a turning point for Dear Raxlow. Global warming making its way into the Star Wars universe here.
Absolutely.
Tingaroks are a powerful energy source. Have we talked about Tingaroks ever before in Star Wars? Do you know?
I haven't ever seen them before or heard them mentioned, so they felt new to me. Maybe there's some other kind of crystal that can work like kyber or something. Who knows? There's a couple different rocks now that we've been introduced to between a couple different books and shows that are like power
Mhm,
sources, apparently. So, kind of a substitute for coal in our world, maybe.
mhm. No, that's a good point. So Rexlo has some flying security droids because he was worried about the Jedi. He came prepared. And I was upset with the kids here. They get surrounded by these droids, right? And they're like, we have to give up. We're surrounded. And it's just these flying balls. It's not like there's these enforcer droids. They give up. They surrender to these like little flying orbs. And I'm like, you have lightsabers. Like, granted, they're training lightsabers, but use your lightsabers. I have seen Kai draw his lightsaber for a lot less and be willing to take a lot bigger chances than these five little balls that are circling around. I was like, what? We're gonna back down now, Kai? That's not the Kai Bright Star that I know. This was the time for aggressive negotiations.
And bringing back an Anakin reference there too.
As many
Um,
times as I can.
I it's the thing is we've seen these kids be very good with like blaster deflection.
Mhm.
So I kind of also don't get it, but I get it. They're kids. So like they're pretty skilled. We haven't really seen any blasters get by them in like 20 episodes, 19 episodes. Like they're good. So I don't know why they were like, okay.
uh, Maybe it's because they were just worried about old Gumar.
They
Helpless
were
little
worried about
Gumar.
Gumar.
Like freaking helpless little elephant dude. What are they called again?
I think they're on well, I mean, all I know to call them is Andravens because they're on the
Yeah,
planet
I think okay, yeah,
Andraven.
yeah. Okay. I think that's right. So, the funny part was when after they ended up neutralizing the droids using like the snow, they like create this like giant avalanche on the droids to freeze them, and then they go back to Raxlow and they just start pressing all the buttons in his ship and they start all of his music and he's like, "Wait, what?" And it was just I did laugh out loud when they go, "Hi, Raxlow," and he's like, and then he gives this big speech about how much he's annoyed by them, and they're like, Raxlow, like the mountain's about to crash on us," and he has the greatest line that I can relate to so much, and it was, "Don't interrupt me when I'm monologuing." I just love that.
As much as a villain as he is in this episode, I get it. If I'm going on a tangent here or with friends or anywhere, I really do not take well to being interrupted. I want to get my full thought across, or else I will forget where I am. It's not going to get finished. I'm not going to come back to it. I get it, Raxlow. I get it.
Well, as a teacher, there are times when I'm like talking with kids and or giving like a story or a lesson or something that maybe I'm telling some stupid story and the kids do not care about this random time Mr. Bradshaw's life that he wanted to share at this moment in time. But gosh dang it, one, you don't have to work when Mr. Bradshaw is doing story time. So let me have my monologue, all right? Let me have my moment. I have the floor, all right? Don't interrupt Mr. Bradshaw's like monologue this week, all right, kids? Like that's what I was thinking with Raxlow is like talking to the kids, like, don't interrupt me when I'm monologuing. Like I relate. Last note here on this part was Jam, which is Gumar's like little brother. He comes waddling up at the end, and all I remember was thank goodness this guy wasn't involved in this episode. Little helpless Andraven kid getting lost in the snowstorm because he doesn't know his own planet is going to have a snowstorm. And we had to spend the whole episode trying to find this little goober last time. And thankfully, he was not involved. We left Jam at home to avoid any catastrophes.
Maybe he's just becoming self-aware and he's like, you know what? I know I need to set this one out. I'm a goober. I can't do this.
Dude would have accidentally walked into the avalanche when it was falling. Like they would have been like, "All right, we're gonna cause this avalanche to smother the droids." He's like, "Ooh, snow," and just walks off, and he gets covered in the avalanche. Jam, no! Like I can see it now.
He accidentally would point the laser at the hatchlings. I mean, who knows? There could have been way more catastrophic
Jam.
outcomes.
Episode 20 is called Aftershock, and this is a very interesting episode. We travel to the planet of Undala, where there has recently been an earthquake, natural disaster that has ruined several villages on this planet, and the Jedi are there with Master Zia in order to try to help them rebuild, and then also barter for supplies and ask for supplies with the royal family, which are less than helpful. And ultimately, they seek help from young Prince Cyrus, who takes matters into his own hands. And there are some very interesting things going on with Prince Cyrus. Not sure if we want to talk about all of them right now. We can. I don't know. But Prince Cyrus is hanging out. And ultimately, the lesson here is that, you know what? If you have, an abundance, like you should find a way to help, people in need. And I think that that's something Prince Cyrus learns in this episode.
I think it's a good lesson. I think he does indeed learn this. And I think really this problem, the root of it is a different symptom or a different cause. And that is the fact that this ruling king and queen, and then consequently prince, really are not in touch with the people they are ruling over. They don't ever even talk to these people. Some of the villagers, they know them. They're the villagers. They're being ruled over by these people. But these rulers don't know their people at all. They're completely out of touch. They're hands off in their mansion up on the hill away from everything. And I think that causes you to not care. I think that causes you to easily distance yourself and not care and not want to give to people you don't know. So I think Cyrus finds
They're also just losers in general.
They're also just losers. Let's not forget that. That is objectively true. Once Cyrus actually gets to know the villagers and really starts to develop a personal relationship, that's when it becomes personal, and he actually feels led to go take his own stuff and give it to the villagers. I think the personal connection there is what fixes everything. It's what drives everything. And I think that's completely true in our real life universe. You're going to be so much more willing to help someone that you personally know. So I would say go personally know as many people as you can in life.
Right. No, that's a really good point. Like the personal connection goes a long ways. Like it's easy to dismiss these people over here that you've never seen before. But then once Prince Cyrus goes and he has this little cute kid coming up to him asking for help, giving him a hug when she finds out that, little Mina finds out that Prince Cyrus is going to help. Like, how do you say no to this cute kid asking you for help? Like, you can't unless you have a heart of stone. And so often, and we see this with like political leaders that get elected to office and then never spend any time in their, in their districts that elected them. And so, or we'll see this, a number of times with, corporations that are trying to sell something to people, but then taking advantage of those who are in desperate situations and can't do anything about it. Now, something that I did think was interesting in this episode, and maybe this is me reading too deeply into a children's show, but I think this is just a perfect description of why the Republic failed in general. And it's because I think this gets into what Count Dooku was frustrated with in Tales of the Jedi, why Dooku left the Jedi Order, and why Qui-Gon was also frustrated with the Jedi as well. Because we have this ruling class people, and they are talking to Master Zia throughout about the benefits of joining the Republic. What benefits are there to join the Republic? And they're so interested in Starlight Beacon and becoming a part of this great Republic. And I'm sure that this planet was probably ushered into the Republic like so many in the Outer Rim. But like they were, put the royal family is out there. The royal family is in charge. But all the people beneath are left out. Just like the reason for the Clone Wars in general was because the Republic had gotten to a point where the core planets and the core worlds were like the royalty, and the mid-rim and beyond the outer rim planets are left, on the outside looking in. And I think this planet is just a microcosm of the bigger problem that ends up happening in the galaxy, which is the elitists and the ones in charge forgot about the people who are on the fringes of society or on the lower spectrum of the economic ladder. And frankly, attitudes like this are what led to the Republic's eventual downfall.
That is really well said. I think that's perfect, that this is a microcosm of the Republic in general. And it it did irk me when we get a mention of Starlight Beacon here, and this king and queen are very interested, for once, interested in something, and it
Mhm.
happens to be, oh, what can I benefit from joining the Republic? I'm not interested in joining this so I can share my resources to help others in need more easily. I'm interested in joining because I can lift myself up or
Mhm.
get fame or whatever it may be selfishly. Like it's the perfect microcosm for why things deteriorated the way they did.
I don't know what day in the timeline a certain thing happens to Starlight Beacon that brings it over the waters of Aram, but I hope that this royal family happened to be paying a visit to Starlight Beacon during that time, just so they could embrace, a little bit of reality, get a little dose of reality before maybe the stars in their eyes fall a bit from uh, the glory that they prop themselves up on.
I really hope that they got to see the wondrous Iram Ocean. Let's put it that
Yes.
way.
Yes, I really hope so. Like, I think they deserve that, frankly. Fathers were in this,
Yeah,
episode. We got some fathers. First time I think we've ever seen fathers outside of The Last Jedi, is that correct? In terms of I don't think there's
I'm pretty
fathers
sure.
in, like, Bad Batch or Clone Wars or Rebels.
And I'm trying to think if they're in like Mando season 3 or something. I don't
I don't think
remember.
so.
I don't
Don't think
think
so.
so either. So this is definitely the first time we've seen them animated, which was
Okay.
fun. Really fun.
I Okay, let's talk about Prince Cyrus. How much do you wanna talk about Prince Cyrus?
It's tough because there's something else that will happen with him later on in a couple episodes. I'm not even sure. I know what happens. Haven't seen the episode.
You haven't watched I this whole time I'm operating under the opinion.
I
Okay,
know
so we'll
exactly
say
what is going on, but yeah, I haven't
okay.
watched the episode.
So Prince Cyrus is like, screw it. Prince Cyrus is Tabor, and,
You know what? Screw
I
it.
it's so Prince Cyrus here, and it becomes, it's so obvious when you watch this back too. I mean, you watch it the first time, like I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, like I see what we're doing here. Like,
Yeah.
I you kind of get the idea he's gonna be. You see the way he's wielding his staff, like just like he would wield his little staff, electro staff, and his attitude when he sees the Jedi, he's so surprised. Like, as I'm watching this, I'm going like, yeah, this, it's obviously Tabor, and all you see it all unfold, and it's just really interesting watching him interact with the Jedi, interacting with Kai without necessarily without them knowing that it's actually Tabor. And so it was fun to see this side of Prince Cyrus and maybe get a peel behind the curtain of like why he is the way that he is, with the whole Tabor persona.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of cemented when I think it's toward the end of the episode. They kind of have this moment where Kai and Cyrus are, and maybe it's in the middle. I kind of forget when this happens, but Kai is like, I don't think we ever formally introduced each other. I'm Kai Brightstar. Reaches out his hand to just give a handshake, and Cyrus goes, Kai Brightstar. Like he kind of gives a
Kai,
like,
right, Star.
oh, okay. Like I know you from somewhere. Um, which was funny because I mean, so full honesty, I had watched this episode before. I
Yeah.
hadn't watched anything past it. This might have been the most recent one I'd watched. And
Okay. Okay.
I still to this day have not actually watched episodes 22, 23, 24, 25. Like I still haven't
Okay.
watched 23 through 25. So I was searching Cyrus Vundir on Wikipedia just to get a little bit more information about him for this podcast. And immediately it tells me Cyrus Vundir is Tabor Valdorn. And I was
So
like,
you did not know when you watched you did
oh,
not know before we watched it, and so you're like, "Oh, okay." I thought
oh,
that's funny. That's funny.
shoot. Yeah, I just got that sprung upon me when I was just trying to do some light research and find out a little bit more about his species, really. The Vundalans. I
Mhm.
was like, I just want
Yeah.
to know a little bit more about the character. Bam, here's a secret identity. And I was like, oh, not the first time this has happened. I know
So
we've already covered phase 2 of the High Republic.
What's
on this
what were you
podcast.
spoiled?
So what?
What's spoiled for you then?
So I wanted to know more about the mother. I think she had this name. What
Uh,
was her first name?
Anasaya, or oh
Because
my
her
god,
name
Mother
was
Anasaya. That's freaking acolyte. Um,
because
oh my
Olivia
gosh,
and Zala or something. I don't
it's
know.
not Zala.
It's not Zala. That's Zala McCree.
Zala McCree is who you're
I
thinking
knew
of.
her. We knew her first name, and so I searched up
Oh my
the
gosh.
mother, and it told
Oh
me
my goodness.
I
This is
got the
gonna
mother's
drive me
identity. I
insane.
got the mother's identity spoiled for me because I was like,
What
I
is
wonder
her
who
name?
the.
Oh my
I know.
gosh. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm like literally
I can't
losing
think
it
of it off the
right
top of my head.
now. I am all right.
But
We're gonna
that's
move
another
on.
instance
I'm
where I
gonna
was
remember
like,
it as we do this. Like it's gonna come to me. I'm gonna remember.
I wanted to
Um
like search something small about her, like her age or like where
mhm.
she was from or like what happened earlier in her
Like
story
Ariel, like something regalish,
and
like too.
it
Oh
completely
my
spoiled it for
goodness,
me.
this is
So
pissing me off that I don't remember the mother's name right now. Like it's legitimately angering me that
something's ever
I
on.
can. I know it's something Zeveron. Like yes, I
I
know.
don't know.
It's like Alicia, Alicia.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
Alicia or
Alicia.
Alicia. Like
Yeah.
it's Alicia. Oh my gosh. Oh, like I can breathe a sigh of relief now and actually like it's Alicia. Right?
Shit.
Like it, yeah,
It
that's it.
is.
That's okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Last thing on episode part 1 episode 20 was this was an example of why I could not be trusted with force powers because if I saw these two royals sitting and eating the Star Wars equivalent of grapes while their people are suffering, I would be going like Anakin, like force choke, launching them out of a window into the ground and forcing them to get to work. Like there's zero way I would be able to control myself and not just be like,
Well,
oh,
I'm glad to know that we're on the same page because I equally was like, what are you doing?
oh, it pisses me off. Oh my goodness. All right, part 2, Feather Frenzy. There are giant birds that would be absolutely terrifying to be around that are taking over Nash's family's little compound area, their landing zone where they conduct their business. And so she calls on Kai, Liz, and Nubs for help, who are doing some flight training and some Jedi vectors, which was pretty cool. And so they're doing their flight training, and we get these giant birds that turn out to be baby firehawks. And, there's decisions that have to be made in this of, are we going to help these firehawks find their way home? They're very rare creatures. They're the most rare creature on the planet, and maybe the most beautiful, some would say. I'm not a bird guy, so pass here. But in general, that's the direction that Tanu would have you believe about these birds. But ultimately, Nash says, you know what? My family's coming back. They want me to clean this. We have this really big meeting with this guy named Gris Beliscal. But instead of getting everything ready, I'm going to do the right thing here and make sure that these creatures get to safety because they need me. And that's what's truly important. Luke, how do we feel about the Firehawks episode here?
So I enjoyed it, but I did forget that you do not enjoy birds. You're not a bird guy.
Not a bird guy at
You
all.
really, really don't like birds. And
I'm telling you, I watched
that's
when I
funny.
was running once in the park. And I've told you, you've heard this story, but I'm saying I'm going through the park and there's a bunch of these ducks, like the evil ducks, with the ones with like the red, underneath, like the red eyes, like the Sith ducks is what I call them. So there's these Sith ducks, and I see them murder one of their own. Like they literally are just ganged around a duck, and they kill it. I watched this happen. I swear, like on like the Force itself, I saw this happen, and I'm like standing, like watching this, and it was almost like they knew that I watched them commit this like atrocious homicide, and all of these ducks, like there's 10, 15 ducks, they turn and they just start waddling and like flapping their like wings and flying straight at me, like just straight at me, like I was the next like prey, like I was the next victim. And I took off and had the PR mile of my life down the road as I ran away from these ducks. I never have run in that area again, like ever. Like no, I was done. It was terrifying. Like I was like, and
Was this
ever
in
since then, I'm
Orlando?
like, this is in Oklahoma. This is
Okay,
years
okay.
we're talking about here. before I moved. This was before I moved to Indiana. This is before I moved to Orlando. Like this is pre Luke Sheehan in my lifetime that we're talking about here. So, and I was terrified. And then I had a moment, in college as well, where I'm just walking to class and this giant goose like just flies straight at my face, and I have to drop to the ground because it was protecting this freaking door. Like I couldn't even go in the, and I tried to walk to the door and it just would keep going after me to where I had to walk around and go somewhere else. And from that moment on, I'm like, I am banning all birds from my life. Like one time I'm in Honduras and this giant parrot like it's just walking over. It's like, oh, that's cool. And then it just lunges at my ankle and just it just snaps my ankle and my ankle starts bleeding. I'm like, no, birds are vile creatures. Okay, they are horrible. Now I will say this: I live with someone. This is irony, right? I live with someone who has pet parakeets. My roommate has pet
Right.
birds, pet parakeets, and I am sure that his birds are lovely creatures, and I hear them, and I love that my friend Joshua has these birds. Like I'm like, I'm all about you have your pets, you do your thing. Anytime I go up to like talk to him for a minute and the birds come out, I'm stepping out. Like I'm gone. Like I can't do it. One time I had to like come home from work and like feed the birds like for him because he was gone. He's like, "Oh my gosh, can you get the?" Well, I was terrified. This is the most terrifying moment of my life. I thought I was gonna die. Anyway, so these firehawks, right? These firehawks will not leave. They are known to be very stubborn. Shocking birds being
I think you
stubborn.
would have handled the situation very differently than Nash. Let's say that. Had you had any
I could
weapons
not say
available
that.
to you?
Weapons. I would have been hiding in the room waiting for like my parents to get home. Please make the birds go away. But how about this? The Firehawk led the Firehawks to safety. Nash's ship, the
See,
Firehawk,
that was a
was
really
what led
cool
them to
little like backstory piece of lore there that like she
Mhm,
named her ship the Crimson Firehawk after these beautiful adult Firehawk birds. And really,
mhm,
I think part of the story is that we've never really seen baby Firehawks. They didn't even know that's what these were. So
mhm.
it's a fun little thing in the episode.
I did write in my notes, shoot them! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! Like I
That's
did,
what
I
I was
did right.
hinting at. Yes.
Get in the Firehawk and start blasting. That's what you do right there. Take a few of them out. They'll leave. They'll start leaving after that. I guarantee you.
Not the Jedi way.
Dude, we have these like giant sandhill cranes that walk around, and you've seen them. You've come home visit me. You see these
Yeah.
giant birds that are just walking around. There's freaking dinosaurs walking around in my neighborhood, and like I go for a run. I'm terrified. I think these things are gonna attack me every time if I'm going for a run. It's crazy. So there was a couple of funny moments too where like Hylas and Nubs are lifting one of the birds, trying to move it, and they lift it off to the side, and then they're like exhausted because these birds are ginormous. Like they're like building sized birds. And then the bird just walks right back over to where they were. It was pretty funny. And then when they tried to feed the birds and just more birds come, it was pretty great.
I
We
will
do
say
see this. Yeah, go for it.
this is like my favorite kind of structure to a cartoon episode where it's
Mhm.
like, oh no, we've got this problem, we need to solve it. Let's try 14 different methods and they're all going to fail spectacularly in very different ways. Anytime any show gives me that kind of structure,
Right.
I just eat it up. I think that's funny.
Yes. No, I especially like these kids shows. It's pretty good. Like I love it, just like the comedic aspect of them going through all the different ways, like the blooper reel almost of all the
Yeah,
failed
exactly.
attempts. Yes, I love that. So two things here. Sorry, one thing, I guess. So we get to see in screen for the first time is both of Nash's moms for the first time. So we finally get to see, like, we know that Nash has two moms in the show, but we finally get to see that representation play out on screen, which was, exciting to see that we are demonstrating to kids like how like there are many different types of families, and they are all like any type of these families can be a loving, supporting, wonderful home, which I think is a great message to drive home for young kids who may at some point in their life are going to experience some level of prejudice or bigotry that exists out there.
Absolutely. We could go on about this for a very long time, but the root of this is that it is very good to show like very different kinds of families and they're all
Mhm,
going to show love
mhm,
equally well. So like
mhm.
I love that. I love diversity and inclusion and equity and
Yeah.
like all these things that need to be preached. And honestly, Star Wars is a very good vehicle for that. It's always been. I mean, ever since the
Mhm.
beginning, George Lucas has wanted to push acceptance and calling out things that are bigotry. So like
Star Wars
I thought
should
it was
be
great.
like the place for that because of the
Yeah,
diversity of the galaxy and everything. Star Trek is, I think, for the most part, is like always ahead of the curve in that. Has
seems to
Star
be.
Trek still has things to work on with that too, but for the most part, like Star Trek is really great. But I think in Star Wars, though, in general, Star Wars fans are the ones that need to be a little bit better about some of
Oof.
these things, to some degree. So Luke, we made it through another couple episodes of Young Jedi Adventures. Thank you, as always, for joining. If you haven't listened to the live show from a couple days ago, check it out. We discussed everything else going on in the year 2024 and what we're most excited for. Possible Tales of the Jedi. Still think it's going to happen. Okay. We talked about some episodes of Skeleton Crew. I gave the episode, I think the Mandalorian will show up in the episode. You can get some of Luke's takes on some High Republic stuff coming out. Luke and I and Jay discussed, why is it going to be 18 years before we get Ahsoka season 2? How do we change the model of these long gaps between shows? The Monday podcast this week will be, once again, I'll be taking a break this week from the Monday show, and we will have a full spoiler show on Star Wars Outlaws with those from the Star Wars Newsnet team that have played Star Wars Outlaws for enough to be able to tell you all about the spoilers. But you can always catch us here every Saturday on the Star Wars Newsnet YouTube channel, podcast feed. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please give us a review. It really helps us be able to drive forward our 3 podcasts a week for you. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that little subscribe button. We would love to get over 8,000. We're sitting right now at 7,997. So it'd be nice if we hit that 8,000 subs mark here pretty soon. As always, thank you for listening / watching. Remember, everyone, we are all the Republic for light and life, my friends.